Hey everyone, Scott here, and if you've been following the channel for a while, you know that my channel used to be called Thrift Store Bibles. And the idea was for me to review Bibles I'd picked up at thrift stores, used bookstores, etc. Well, we're finally looking at The Way. This is what started it for me when I got into picking up Bibles at thrift stores. Were these very 60s, 70s, I guess 70s youth Bibles featuring the Living Bible, which is a precursor to the New Living Translation, or NLT. The full Bibles are called The Way, and they also came in a Catholic edition, which I do not have. And then the New Testament was called Reach Out. And I just really love the very groovy letters and the photos. It just, yeah. It's definitely not a Bible for serious study. But what I love about this, I just love the different photos and things throughout. And I wouldn't even say they're all necessarily helpful. This isn't the one I was looking for, but this is a good example. We have this photo of some cheerleaders. It tells us cheerleaders in a practice session leap in exuberance and precision humans seldom feel what these girls express. The freedom and the joy of life. And it talks about how Paul in this book talks to the new freedom we have, freedom which opens the way to life with such sweeping fullness, anything compared to it is flat and tasteless. How can this be? Read on. So it kind of ties this idea of cheerleaders in exuberance, kind of being like what is promised to us in Galatians. Yeah, I don't know. It's the best example. But the thing is, then once you're into Galatians, okay, that's fun. And this is for high schoolers. They can connect with cheerleading, right? But now we have nothing, right? There's no study notes. There's no cultural background. There's no, now you're just on your own. So that's basically what you get, is just kind of a cutesy example to help try to connect it with your life. This is the one I wanted to, that I was thinking of. So this is First Peter. And this is what we get for First Peter. We have this young lady, very fashionable. And it says, "Is she for real? Sometimes a girl is so beautiful she seems almost make-believe. Wouldn't it be nice if we were as attractive as this perky model?" Okay, we're just going to stop there. This is just, right, this is just kind of silly, isn't it? I don't think this is very helpful for getting us into First Peter. With that said, though, you saw I had this other copy. This one I just picked up a few months ago. And the reason I did is it was interesting to me. They've updated that. So this one was printed in 1981. And now, for First Peter, we have something very, very different. And we talk here about, in America, it seldom hurts much to be a Christian. It may involve self-control or some friend's rejection, but you never get horsewhipped for talking about Christ. And they talk about how in some countries, Christians face very severe punishment and penalties for their faith. And it says, what would you do if your faith met this kind of test, if it really hurt to believe? Peter wrote the next two books to Christians who had been exiled and persecuted for their beliefs. His message is stunning, dear friends. Don't be bewildered or surprised when you go through the fiery trials ahead. Glad for persecution? Peter goes on to explain why. So, yeah, this is a much better introduction to Peter. This actually offers some helpful connection to our lives. Now, again, there's no other real study notes. There's a little bit of translation notes here and there, but that's a huge improvement. So less cutesy, more helpful information. And I think there was a few of them they changed in this from here, but this one too I love this one had the little advertisement in here to show us the different versions available. There's for children, there's for young adults or teenagers. We've got the Lindsay Study Bible. We have a self-help edition. Again, we cannot understate how big a seller this was. This was a huge success in its time. Gift version. I'm looking at my notes here. This is not my most put together video by any means. I'm just looking at some old notes I had taken. It ended up being translated into over 100 languages, and this was the Living Bible, the best-selling book in the United States from 1972 to 1974. That's wow. It was, and I read it was sold in all kinds of stores: grocery stores, drug stores, department stores, Sears and J.C. Penney. It was unprecedented in the Bible world, Bible sales, publishing. Let's look at some actual examples of how it presents things, translates them, paraphrases them. Okay, this is in Psalm 119, and if you've ever looked into the Living Bible at all, you have inevitably heard of this example. I think this is one of the most popular examples of why, for people who don't like the Living Bible, your words are a flashlight to light the path ahead of me and keep me from stumbling. Okay, yeah, I have to say I don't love that at all. I think most people know what a lamp is or how a lamp works. I understand most of us are not heading out into the night with a lamp. We would have a flashlight. Most of us, now there's one built into your cell phone, right? So I can see they were trying to make it more contemporary, but it just doesn't sound very good. And I'm pretty sure the NLT did away with that. Here we are in Daniel chapter 3, verse 5. And we see here, when the band strikes up, you are to fall flat on the ground to worship King Nebuchadnezzar's golden statue. Anyone who refuses to obey will be thrown in the flaming furnace. And, of course, Daniel and his friends disobey. What's worth noting here is it says the band. Well, that's not what the Hebrew says at all. But they do have a note down here. Literally, the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and every other sort of instrument. Maybe he thought it was just easier for reading to children to just have the band, but and they do the same again in verse 10. That's an example of the kind of paraphrase it's done here that, it's taking a lot of liberties. The NLT replaces the instruments. It does not have the band. And last one I'll show, this is in Romans chapter 3, verse 21. And this is an example where of a paraphrase, a very interpretive theological paraphrase. But now God has shown us a different way to heaven. And you see there's a footnote there, F. And we see F, they note, implied, literally, a righteousness of God has been manifested. And, some will take issue with that. And that's another example of something that was changed in the NLT, at least as of the latest NLT in 2015, has made right with him instead. So that gives you some idea. It's a very, very loose paraphrase, and some are going to find things that they either just don't like how it reads, or that they are going to take some concern with theologically. And this is a good note to look at after discussing the theological paraphrasing. This is from the preface to this version. I didn't see this in the teen versions, but it does note here, for when the Greek or Hebrew is not clear, the theology of the translator is his guide along with his sense of logic, unless perchance the translation is allowed to stand without any clear meaning at all. The theological lodestar in this book has been a rigid evangelical position. So that gives you some idea where they're coming from. And if you're familiar with the NLT, with this I don't think that should come as any surprise. But yeah, I'm personally not a big fan of the Living Bible, just because I think if I had been around in the time that this was popular, I might have been. But we just have so many other options today. The NLT is a much better option, as well as other translations that are less paraphrased, but still easier to grasp, like say the NIV or the CSB. But I just love the artwork more than anything. The covers. I'll probably keep one or two of these around just because they're neat. And I might try to read something out of them on occasion. But I have enjoyed finding these at thrift stores, picking them up, and wanted to do a video on them just because I do think they're kind of fun, but not something I'd necessarily recommend. Last thing I was going to show, I took this out of one of them. I did love this. Prepare in the wilderness a road for the Lord. That's great. I think I'm going to hang this up somewhere. I like this. And that's from Isaiah. It's taken from the today's English version, also known as Good News Bible, which is put out by the American Bible Society. Anyways, would love to hear from you. If you have ever read the Living Bible, if you're familiar with these, did you grow up with this kind of thing? Please share in the comments. Want to hear about it? Give me a like if you enjoyed this or found it entertaining. Invite you to subscribe if you'd love to see more of my videos. And as always, God bless. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you for the next one.